All right, so getting a strap for today and a block, and we are going to start lying down on that block with the shoulders on the block. And you can have the legs out straight or in Baddha Konasana, whichever you would like. And then the shoulders on the block. And taking your time, making your way there. Whatever little shifting and squinging you want to do. And then breathing. Letting that breath get a little slower. Maybe taking a few breaths a little extra long and deep, with a little bit of intention to go right to the edge of that inhale, and then maybe there's just a little more as that stretches out, and then all the way to the bottom of the exhale. And maybe as you reach that bottom, there's just a little more letting go, a little deeper place. And continuing with your mindful breathing, and maybe taking the arms alongside and up overhead in the snow angel arms. Big stretch out and up, big stretch out and down. Taking up lots of space, just like we do when we're sitting. And then letting those arms land somewhere. And let's just take a few breaths, letting that body be still, just feeling your breath, just being with what is for a few moments. And then we'll finish down here on the block to make your way up to sitting. And we will sit in Sukhasana, the crossed legs, using those arms alongside, lengthening up, getting space between the vertebrae, space in the hip sockets, whatever little shifting you want to do. And then finishing with that, letting the hands rest on the knees. Big inhale and exhale. Pouring down the sides of the neck off the tops of the shoulders, long spine through the top of the head.
And with every breath, balancing that effort and ease for yourself, for today, for this moment. And then let's reach out wide through the collarbones, through the fingertips, breathing the arms up, taking up lots of space. And then we're going to side bend over to the right. Big inhale and exhale, tilting to the right, putting that right hand on the floor, pulling that left shoulder up and open. And then we're going to come back up with both arms overhead, bringing that right arm up. Breathe for a moment in that center and then over to the left. Inhale and exhale over to the left. Think more of arching up and over rather than down and over. Breathing along the left side. And let's do that once more each side. Big lift up in the center and up and over to the right. Coming back up and over to the left. And back up to the center. Let's bring those hands together and do our pull down the center line, lifting a little more through the top of the head. And then drawing the thumbs into the sternum, letting everything soften. Inhaling and exhaling, coming back to a place of stillness and taking a few moments here, letting all that we just did settle into your body, being where you are now. And then we'll just release the hands and change the cross of the legs. Coming forward, pouring over, breathing across the back of the body now. And then let's come up, unfurling that spine vertebrae by vertebrae. And we will ripple, lifting that upper chest up, reaching forward and over, contract and ripple back. And then maybe switching direction so we're rounded back and then you dive forward. And then leading forward and up with the upper chest. And then we'll finish with this rippling in the next couple of breaths. And bending back up on top of those sitting bones. Inhale and exhale. And let's come around onto all fours. You can do a couple cats and cows if you want. That's not our main thing here. So carefully placing those hands as if you were doing a plank or a downward facing dog. And then feeling long and flat against the ceiling, a little drawing up of those abdominal muscles against the spine. And we'll extend the left leg back with the toes tucked under, pressing back into the heel, pulling the abdominal muscles up, stretching down the back of the left leg. And then we're going to lift that left leg up. So try to stay very square, toes to the floor, inner left thigh lifting. Maybe it's not going to go all that high. And then optional, reaching the right arm forward. Still thinking very flat. And then reach a little more fingertip to the toes and take a little arch up, lifting that left leg a little higher. And then next option, bending the left leg, getting hold of it with the right hand, getting hold of that ankle and pulling that up. So all this can be done with both hands safely on the floor. And then we'll let go of that left leg, swinging the knee to the nose, rounding in for a moment. And then setting the left leg down. And we'll do the same thing with the right. Strong core against the ceiling. Extend the right leg back, pressing into the heel, stretching down the back of the right leg. And then we'll lift the right leg, but trying to stay very square, even if your leg is like mine is, I think. Yes, just on the diagonal. Trying to be a very flat line. Right toes to the floor, lifting from that right inner thigh. And then next option, reaching forward with the left arm. And then we'll reach a little more spaciously, reaching through the right toes, lifting up with a little arch and lift. And then next option, bending that right leg and taking the left hand back to the ankle. And then we'll finish with this side, swinging that right leg through knee to the nose. Setting that down. Let's take a pull back in child's pose. Resisting with those arms a moment. Picking up the base of the wrist. And then finally settling back, softening the arms. Deep breath. And let's expand up in downward facing dog. And then walking the dog or anything else you want to do here. And then finishing with whatever you're doing to find the best downward facing dog you can do at this moment. Nothing moving but the breath. Inhaling up to those sitting bones, exhale, pouring down the backs of the legs. And then let's lengthen forward to the plank. Really pressing back through those two heels. And we'll lower ourselves to the floor. Any means, maybe kneeling chaturanga, which is what I'm doing, setting the knees down, pulling the elbows in and back, down to the floor. Small cobra. Rolling down. Two more small cobras. Pulling the elbows back, pulling the top of the head forward. And then lengthening down, pulling elbows back, top of the head as you come down. And once more, working the upper back a little more than the arms and hands. Well, let's do once more. And then peeling yourself back up to downward facing dog. Taking a breath or two here. And then we'll look between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave, back halfway up. Lengthen that out a little more. And then pouring over. Couple breaths here. Having a little bend in the knees if needed. Ooh, actually that felt good, having a little bend in the knees. And then coming up to standing, big front body yawn. And let's circle those arms down and all the way around to Namaste in front. Tadasana, the mountain pose. And coming back over. Big swoop up. And diving over. And let's go to Utkatasana, the chair pose. Sitting back, reaching those arms forward and up. And then we're going to twist to the right, hooking that left hand or arm across the right thigh, pulling wide fingertip to fingertip, reaching through the top of the head. And then kind of feeling like you're just sitting on those sitting bones, lengthening through the spine, the belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders, the neck, and the head twisting. And a big reach around with the right arm back to Utkatasana, arms forward. And then releasing over, straightening the legs. Concave back, folding over. Let's step back with the left leg into the low lunge. And then bringing the left knee down, coming up in Jayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhaling down the back. And then let's send those arms around that circle of breath, reaching around and all the way back up overhead. And namaste in front. And straightening up that left leg, stepping forward. And a little concave back, folding over. And Utkatasana, the chair pose again. And then we'll go to the left. So twisting to the left, hooking that right arm over, reaching fingertip to fingertip. And then doing all those twisting actions that I talk about when we're sitting, as if you're sitting on those sitting bones, lengthening through the spine, the belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. Oh, and the breathing. And a big reach around with that left arm back to Utkatasana. And releasing over. a little concave back, folding over, stepping back with the right leg, and then bringing that right knee down, and Jayasana, the kneeling lunge. And then circling the arms all the way around. Namaste in front. And straightening up that right leg, stepping forward. Into the concave back, halfway up, folding over. And then let's come all the way back up to standing. And arms down and around, namaste in front. Couple breaths here. And then let's make our way over. Big inhale up and exhale, diving over. So we're essentially going to do Surya Namaskar A with a concave back, folding over, jumping or stepping back through the vinyasa, any version. And we'll just take a breath or so in downward facing dog. And then looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, folding over and sitting down. Into Baddha Konasana, feet together, knees out to the side. Have your belt nearby somewhere you can reach it here. And okay, back here in Baddha Konasana, holding on to the ankles or shins, lengthening up, pressing those outer knees down. And let's come forward, pressing those elbows along the inner thighs. Inhale into the center of the body, exhale, pouring out. Reaching for a spot somewhere beyond your toes. And then coming up. And let's bring those legs in. And we are going to roll ourselves down to the floor. Nice and slowly bringing those arms up. Tuck the tailbone under in a nice slow roll. So if you need to help yourself slow down, you can put the hands behind the thighs there, really curling into the spine, trying to come down vertebrae by vertebrae. And then at last we're down, stretching long along the floor. And let's bend the right leg in, pulling that thigh into the chest, reaching long through the left leg, and belt around the right foot, extending that right leg up. Pressing the right foot up into the belt, feeling like you're standing on the ceiling on that right foot. And then on the left side, there on the floor, we're doing like when we were kneeling and we extended the left leg back, toes tucked under, lengthening along the back of the left leg. And you can even give that left leg a little press into the floor like you were trying to give the left leg a lift up behind you. So working very actively here, kind of thinking like a warrior 3. And then reach through that left foot and lifting that left leg a few inches off the floor, really feeling that core engage a little bit more. And then reaching the left leg back down to the floor. And then we'll finish with the right. Reaching the right leg back down to the floor. Take a breath. And we'll bend the left leg. Pause a moment, getting that right leg extending along the floor. And then belt around that left foot, extending the left leg up. And standing on the ceiling, reaching through that right leg. See if you can relate this to when we were on all fours kneeling, with the right leg behind, stretching down the back of the right leg. Maybe even pressing that right leg into the floor a little, like you were trying to lift it on all fours. Oh, and then there's breathing. Hopefully we're all breathing. Inhale and exhale. And then we'll lift that right leg a few inches off the floor, reaching long through the heel, feeling that core engage into the floor. And reaching the right leg back down to the floor, reaching the left leg back down to the floor. You can set that belt aside. And then we're going to bring both legs up to the ceiling. So you can do a straight leg lift up, or you can bend the knees in and pressing them up. All right, so here we are at a right angle, more or less, standing on the ceiling. You can keep the arms alongside for this next part. You can bring the arms up overhead or somewhere in between. So overhead is kind of a little more challenging, but we're only going to lower one leg at a time. All right, so flattening that torso into the floor, reaching through the feet. We're going to lower our left leg just a few inches above the floor, so our right leg is standing on the ceiling. Take a breath there. Press the abdominal muscles into the floor, and then press through the left heel. Lengthen that left leg back up. And then same thing with the right leg. Lowering that right leg just a few inches off the floor. Pause here, feeling that strength in the core. And then lengthen that right leg up again. So let's do that again slowly. Inhale and exhale, left leg down. Inhale and exhale, left leg up. And then right leg. Inhale and exhale, right down and right up. So you can keep going a little slowly like that, or if you want to go a little faster on a single breath, inhale, leg lower, exhale, pull it up. Inhale, lower, exhale, pull it up. You can, but whatever version you're doing, you want to try to keep that deliberateness, that intensity, that precision. And we'll keep going on your own timing for a few more breaths. Or actually, more than a few more breaths, but a few more times. And then
And we will finish in the next few breaths here. So make sure you finish right and left evenly for yourself. So we started with the right leg up. The left leg was the first one to lower, in case you kind of forgot. Eventually, there we all are, standing on the ceiling on both legs. Give those abdominal muscles a press down, and we'll slowly lower the legs to the floor. You can change the position of the arms if you like. So take a moment active against the floor when you first land, and then soften a little. And we'll just pull those knees easily into the chest and then out to the side. Big toes together, floating Baddha Konasana. Holding on to those ankles or shins. If you need to round up a little to do that, and as long as it doesn't feel too uncomfortable, it's fine if you need to round up. Big inhale and exhale, pouring out the inner thighs, out the knees. And then let's come up to sort of an extra wide happy baby, more like a lying down elephant rider. Shins kind of parallel, perpendicular to the floor, but the knees going out to the side, a little more outer rotation and out to the sideness than happy baby. And next step, straightening those legs any amount. Even though gravity is here doing most of the work, reach actively through the heels and through the feet. And then we will fold those legs back in, knee to the nose, taking a few rolling like a balls as long as your spine's all right with it. We're just doing a little squinging on the floor there if that works better. And eventually, we're all going to be back in that forward bend from whence we came. And then as you're ready, coming up onto your feet and slowly expanding into the forward bend. So we're in the forward bend. I'm just up here fixing my hair if you're looking at your screen there. Taking a few breaths, arriving back here on our feet. And see if you can find something of that reach to the ceiling and the belt in a reach into the floor. And coming up to standing, big front body yawn. Pressing the arms down. All right, let's take a big circle with the shoulders to interlock the fingers behind. Lengthening up the front of the body to lift the chest, to lift the chin. And then coming over, pressing out through those hands, pouring over. And release the hands. Let's do another little sun salute as we concave back, folding over through the vinyasa. And taking a breath in downward facing dog. And then once again, taking a little jump forward into the concave back, holding over. And we'll Utkatasana, the chair pose again. We're going to twist to the right. Wide arms. Doing those twisting actions.
And then this time bringing that right hand around to namaste. And namaste in the center. Reach the arms forward, pull the sitting bones back, releasing over. And then kind of like we did before, let's step back with our left leg into the lunge and then coming up in the high lunge. And we will twist to the right, arms parallel to the floor. And then floating that left hand down to the floor, still in the twist to the right. And then maybe coming back up to the twisted high lunge. And both arms coming up. And then our hands down. This time as we come forward, coming up to a supported warrior three, or it could be a balancing warrior three actually. And there we are, same shape we had on the floor in the belt, reaching down through the right foot into the floor, long flat line as best you can from the top of the head out that left heel. And then we'll just bring that left leg back down to Utkatasana, bending the knees, Utkatasana. Sitting here, having a little rest in our chair. And then we'll twist to the left, wide arms. And then bringing that left arm around into namaste. And to the center. Reaching forward, reaching back into the chair. And releasing over. And then we'll step back with the right leg. And coming up in the high lunge. And we'll twist to the left, arms parallel to the floor. And then floating the right hand down into the twist to the left in the low lunge. And then see if we can get back up to that parallel to the floor twist. And bringing the arms back up to the center. And down. And coming up in the supported warrior three, or maybe the balancing warrior three. Finding that long line through the right heel out the top of the head. Even if in your supported warrior three, your torso is probably down on a diagonal, doing your best to feel flattening up. Reaching down through that left leg. And then Utkatasana, bringing the right leg down, bending the knees. Chair pose. And we'll come up to standing, pressing those feet into the floor, unfolding all the joints. And let's bring the arms down, and we'll do the interlocked fingers behind once again. Rolling the shoulders out, lifting up that upper chest. And then coming forward and over, pressing out through the backs of the hands.
And release those hands. And we'll continue back to downward facing dog. Concave back, folding over, jumping or stepping back, downward facing dog. And let's lift the right leg up, reaching long through the heel. And through to the lunge. Let's turn to the elephant rider. Pressing those knees out. Maybe a little squinging. And then let's come up and we're going around to the temple pose, straightening the legs up into that three-pointed star. Lift a little more and then pulling the knees wide, pulling the elbows wide while we try to still go up through the top of the head into the temple pose. Couple breaths here. Press a little more back, tailbone a little more down. And then coming back around, we're coming back around to the temple pose again. Coming up the center line, big wide reach down the sides, back to namaste in the center. And then just straighten the legs. And feet to parallel, arms to parallel. Let's rotate that right leg out 90 degrees, coming into the warrior number 2, reaching through the left fingertips to the right inner knee. And dancing warrior, maybe with a half binding with that left arm, rolling the shoulder out if you want. That's always an option, actually. One more breath here. And then hinging into the triangle. Slowly unfurling your left arm if it was in the half binding. Nice wide arms, strong torso through the top of the head. And then coming down, turning to face that right leg. Maybe bringing your left leg in a little closer. We're going to the rotated triangle. All right, getting centered over that right leg, rotating the left toes in a little, maybe walking the foot a little closer. And then lengthening out, strong core, and we will twist to the right. Ardha Trikonasana, rotated triangle. And as best you can, finding those twisting actions there as if you were sitting on your sitting bones, lengthening through the belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders, the top neck, and the head. All in breathing. Couple more breaths. And then bringing that right arm down. Lunging forward, and we're going to go to the side plank on the left. So stepping back with the right leg, pivot to the outer left foot, side plank, right arm up.
And then to the center, side plank on the right. And back to the center, through a vinyasa or not. I find like kind of a nice ease into a kneeling up dog often feels good after those side planks. And we'll all be back in downward facing dog. And you can come down in child's pose or just taking a few deep breaths here in downward facing dog. And I'm turning around for the other side. And then if you were in child's pose, back up to downward facing dog. There's always another vinyasa opportunity if you would like. And then the left leg, lifting that left leg up. And through to the lunge. Turn to the elephant rider. Maybe a little squinging. And we'll do our arounds to the temple pose. All right, coming up to the three-pointed star. And pulling everything wide into the temple pose. Flattening back, pull the tailbone to the floor, top of the head to the ceiling. And then coming up from the center, straightening those legs, three-pointed star, big reach out back around to the temple pose. And straightening the legs, turning the feet to parallel, and arms to parallel. Breathing. And then we'll rotate that left leg out 90 degrees. And warrior two, left inner knee to the right hand. So we're not doing left hand because that usually pulls that torso a little too far forward. And then dancing warrior, maybe with the half binding. Keeping that left sitting bone going down. And then into the triangle trikonasana, unfurling your right arm if you had the half binding. Breathing into the center, radiating out. One more breath. And then turning to face that left leg. The right heel turns out, or you can think of it as right toes in, maybe stepping that right foot a little closer. So we're in Parsvottanasana. And getting yourself situated there for a few breaths. Nice strong legs. Pulling those kneecaps up, reaching down through the feet. And then lengthening out, feeling as flat to the ceiling as you can. And we will twist to the left, rotated triangle. Inhale and exhale.
And then trying to think of those twisting actions. So sometimes all your attention is just on not tipping over here. Feel like you're sitting on those sitting bones and twisting the belly, the waist, the ribs, the shoulders, the neck, and the head. You can always move your hand out to the right side of your mat. That helps with the balance and stability too, moving your right hand. Couple more breaths here. And then bringing that left arm down, lunging forward. And we'll side plank on the right. And then as you're ready to, the left. Back to the center, through a vinyasa, or maybe a vinyasa-ish, easeful upward facing dog. And then we'll all be back in downward facing dog. Taking 3 deep breaths there. Coming down, sitting back in child's pose. And let's come forward onto our stomach, into that Sphinx for a couple breaths. Pressing the tailbone down, reaching back through the legs. And then let's take a bend to the knees, bridge posing into the floor. And straighten them out. And then we'll do the scorpion tail. So you can stay up here in a, what's it called? Sphinx. Or you can come down lower. So we're going to reach long through both legs, bend the right leg, lift it up and then lift it up and over like dog at the high fire hydrant. Your right elbow might come up off the floor. And I'm not having my right knee down. I'm trying to pull it up to the ceiling, press that outer leg away like in the temple pose, and then coming back. Same thing with the left, reach, bend, lifting up and over. Left elbow might come up or might not, and not leg down, but pressing up through the knee, pressing that outer left thigh and knee away. And coming back. Yeah, so you can make lots of adjustments depending on what you're doing with the arms and upper body. So let's go back and forth a few times. A little faster or a little slower. And we'll finish up with this in the next few breaths, making sure you finished right and left for yourself. And maybe you were just getting into it, so you're going to do a few more. And we'll all eventually be back in that Sphinx. Taking a few breaths, evening out those two sides, letting things settle. Of course, being lower down, you can be with your forehead on the hands there. You don't need to strain your back if you need to be lower here. And then we'll take a bow pose, making our sides all nice and parallel and even now. And maybe it's going to be an easeful bow pose, just sort of lengthening along the floor here and or lifting up. Feeling the difference between this and those scorpion tails, kind of the opposite extreme. And then coming down. Ah. And let's make our way up to downward facing dog. Taking your time though. Oh, I think several cat and cow ripples seem like they're needed along the way. And eventually, we'll all be in downward facing dog. If you would like to put through the vinyasa there, go ahead. Or just breathing. Shouldn't say just breathing. And then looking between the hands to jump or step forward. Into the concave back, folding over, and coming up to standing. Big front body yawn. Arms down. Taking a few breaths here. So we have one more little section of big fun. Okay. Here we are, Tadasana. And let's come over. So very similar to what we did in the beginning. So big forward bend. And then Utkatasana, the chair pose. And let's take a twist to the right with the wide arms. And a big reach around with that right arm back to Utkatasana. Releasing over. And then we're going to step back with the left leg into the low lunge and then Anjayasana again, bringing that left knee down. Inhaling up the front, exhale down the back. Circling those arms around that circle of breath. Namaste in front. Straightening up that left leg. And then we're coming to the supported warrior 3. Or maybe balancing for a moment. And then if you're balancing, bringing those fingertips down, and we're going to twist to the right, Parvrita Ardha Chandrasana. Or any other sort of thing if you want to put your left foot down. You can do a twisted standing forward bend. One more breath.
Bringing that right hand down, bringing the left leg down into Utkatasana. And then we'll do that on the other side. Couple breaths, regrouping. And then we're in Utkatasana, twisting to the left. Bringing that left arm around back to Utkatasana. And releasing over. Then stepping back with the right leg. And bringing that right knee down. And Jayasana. Inhaling up the front, exhale, pouring down the back. Circling the arms. Namaste in front. And then coming forward into supported warrior 3, or maybe balancing warrior 3 for a few breaths. And then we'll all have our fingertips on the floor, supported warrior 3. And twisting to the left, Parvrita Ardha Chandrasana, the rotated half moon. And pulling those abdominal muscles a little more in and up, pressing the back of that right leg up to the ceiling. Trying to find those twisting actions and trying to breathe. One more breath. And bringing that right leg down. Bend the knees. Let's see if we can get to Utkatasana once more. And then we'll straighten up, unfolding everything. Big front body yawn. Maybe a little bigger. Let's take a circle all the way around with the arms here. And then diving over. Concave back, folding over, and sitting down. Baddha Konasana, feet together, knees out to the side. Holding on to the ankles or shins, lengthening up. Inhale and exhale, coming over. Let's make our way down to the floor. So we can make a little core thing out of it, or maybe just using those arms to help in making less of a core thing out of it. And eventually we're all down on the floor. And we'll have the knees bent. Taking a few moments, really letting that back rest into the floor. And then let's do the figure 4, crossing that right leg over, reaching through the triangle, pulling that in. Then we'll set our left foot down and then slide that right leg across the thigh to thigh cross. Giving that a little squeeze. Arms out to the side. Drop the knees over to the left. Big inhale and exhale. Now a nice effortless twisting action. So if it's too much with the cross legs, you could just uncross the legs. And then back to the center, and we will switch legs. Crossing that left leg over, reaching through the triangle, pulling that in the figure four. And then we'll set the right foot down, slide the left leg across, arms out to the side, dropping the knees over to the right, and adjusting the leg position as needed. Inhale and exhale, letting go in a passive twisting action. And then making your way back to the center, disentangling those legs, sliding them out, and into Shavasana. Making sure the head and the neck are also lined up with that spine there. And try not to have the chin tipping back, which sort of feels like you're doing a stretch and open, but it actually lets that upper chest sink down a little, constricts the back of the neck. So you want to feel a long back of the neck and a more or less level chin, maybe even a tiny bit down. And closing the eyes, letting go, resting against the floor. And then breathing back into your body, into the room. Though, of course, staying here a little longer if you have more time. Otherwise, we're moving the fingers and toes. Stretching the arms up overhead. And then bending the knees to gently make your way up to sitting. And sitting in any comfortable position with that long and spacious spine. Taking a few more moments, sitting quietly inside yourself. Namaste. Thank you for coming.